Dan, thanks for checking in on Dimgaard. So again, I'm focusing on material on these Dan on D&D stuff that I don't think that you're getting in any other of the D&D channels that I think adds a lot to the D&D game, at least it does to mine, and would be useful to other DMs. And nothing against that other content. I follow them religiously, and I think everyone should. I think the Dungeon Dudes do an excellent job. I think Call It is. I go on, keep going. They do a great job, and the stuff you get there is very good, top-notch stuff, and the production value is far superior to me just sitting in my home office talking to the camera. But anyway, so what I'm looking at today, and it's evolved in the current campaign that I'm developing. The PCs are 16th level. So what happens? The challenge here is that let's take the presumption that you're starting with very good prepared material, right? This could be any of these Dungeons of Dragonheim from the Dungeon Dudes. You might even find a good Adventure League module out there. You might, and then of course, I'm obviously an advocate for Dimgaard, especially Drow Conspiracy and Face Secrets. Those are my two favorites so far. Although this new one is really good. So let's say you start with really good prepared material. The challenge is that you have a group of players, and you want those group of players to feel like their interaction with that prepared material is their story, not just them watching an already written story unfold. Right? So you need them to be immersed and feel like they are impacting the story and that the story is reacting to them. So these are ways that we do that in Dimgaard, and me as a DM everywhere that I DM, including other prepared materials. So within Dimgaard, I'm going to start within Dimgaard. We have this set of things called special encounters, right? So each episode in a Dimgaard adventure has 6 medium to hard encounters. That leaves 2 to still fulfill the 6 to 8 requirements of the adventuring day. And then you have the prepared adventure with the prepared episode that you're going to be presenting to your group that particular session. Off here, we have special encounters, and these address specific situations, right? So, like maybe the heroes have offended some NPC who is influential in some way. So maybe they assassinated some orc leadership. Well, there are lots and lots of orcs out there in the world, and many of those orc tribes have their own set of heroes who are going to come and in seeking retribution for the offense to their race and tribe. So the exact nature of the offense to the orcs is not in the special encounter. Just that, hey, the PCs have offended this tribe of orcs. Here's a special encounter. We can go on. They've offended some sort of a cosmic power. They've offended some sort of an evil deity, right? Desecrated some sort of a temple and an evil deity. So we have a bunch of these special encounters. We published a bunch of them back in 2018 as a series of like 5 groups of 5, I think. We're working on a volume of these that would be much more substantial, something on the order of 30 of them. That's going to come out. But anyway, that's what we do. We within the context of a Dimgaard campaign, we have the prepared material that is the campaign, that is the story flowing through. But then as the actual characters develop who are interacting with that story, they develop a history that is unique to them. And then within each session, we have the framework to inject a special encounter and provide the players with the feeling, the feedback. And it's not just a feeling, it's the truth, right? So those special encounters are tailoring this pre-made story to the specifics of the PCs who are interacting with that story. And that works really well. It does you're adding an extra encounter, almost always a combat encounter. It's either going to be combat or a deep role-playing encounter to a session, which can push you, 20 to 30 minutes longer than you might, then you got to be prepared for that. And if you're like, I don't want to dig through a bunch of Dimgaard special encounters for the one I'm looking for, that's fine. There are a couple of things that are baked into 5th edition that you can just pull out and away you go. And I've used both of these many times. The first one is like a baked-in special encounter, and that is the Revenant. The Revenant is specifically designed for the PCs have offended someone who has died unjustly because of PC's actions. PCs may have murdered them, the PCs may have been negligent and allowed them to die, whatever. And that spirit now is a vengeful spirit that comes back every day to try and exact retribution. It can be monotonous, right? As the PCs is like every single session we're fighting the same group of revenants. Okay, right? That can be monotonous. It can become like very pro forma unless the DM is going to change environmental factors or somehow remix the revenant abilities in some way, maybe give the revenants some sort of charms or benefits of some sort of friendly spell casting to make things interesting along the way. But the Revenant is a baked-in special encounter. The other one I'm going to get to is the Dream spell, but first I want to cover something else that I use, and it's not necessarily baked into Dimgaard, and that is just not a full encounter, not a special encounter, but a complication. Now sometimes we will include these, like in this current campaign that I'm building, there is a reasonable chance that the PCs have offended the shark god Sekala, the Sahagan primary deity, and then in that episode, I'm like, if the PCs have done these things, then Sekala is, and here's her thing that she can do at any time in subsequent episodes to complicate an encounter, to make it harder on the PCs. Similarly, there's a chance that the PCs could have offended a higher celestial power, like a good creature, right? Like something like an Empyrean or even someone like Saint Cuthbert. And in that case, you say, well, okay, he would have a completely different set of complications that he would exhibit. So, and then a lot of times when it's not in the adventure, and I'm presenting to the PC, I'm presenting it to a particular group of players, and I do this thing. I'm like, oh, you know what? That would definitely offend this higher power, and this higher power is sufficiently strong that they could then influence a subsequent combat. And so what I will do is like, okay, this is the PC's enter combat, and I'm thinking, okay, this cosmic power is out there watching the PCs because they're mad at the PCs, somehow divining that what they're doing, and this is what they're going to do. And so like some very easy mechanics is like a wave of dark energy from an evil deity washes through the party, and everyone has to make has the potential of being affected by a 24-hour curse, particularly the one that says you make a wisdom saving throw or waste your turn doing nothing, right? So that's going, if you have, fighters with low wisdoms, they're going to fail, and they're in trouble. They are complicated, right, at that point. It's not going to be debilitating the entire party, right? Someone says, okay, I'll cast remove curse, and that solves it. But it is definitely conveys the message of the evil deity that, hey, you have offended me to the point where I am going to make life hard on you. Similar to that, so like in the case of Sekala, one of the things that she can do is when once per day when the party enters into combat, she throws a hypnotic pattern of a giant shark into the middle of the PCs. And then so you end up with a hypnotic pattern that can. So now some PCs have to waste their turn shaking everyone free of the hypnotic pattern before they can go ahead and complete their fight. So it's kind of slows things down for a round, but in the end, it's not unfair. It's reasonable. In the case of the higher celestial power, like, well, what would a celestial power do? What would be like a nice thing that? And so it's like, okay, these PCs who have offended me, they're now fighting these other guys. I'm going to, at the end of each of those other guys' turns, I'm going to drop a sanctuary on each one of them so that they are all protected by sanctuary, which is going to make it more difficult for your fighter types who have to now make that wisdom saving throw in order to attack the creature. But it's not like weirdly, it's first level spell. Makes sense that a cosmic power like St. Cuthbert or whoever could cast that across that very long distances and bestow it upon a creature. So those I would do. Sometimes they're baked into the adventure themselves. There will be suggestions at points where, like, if the PCs have offended this power, have committed this crime, this is the retribution that will occur to them by whatever higher power. But very often, that is me as a DM specifically reacting to the players in the campaign, and that's really what we want, right? We want that. We want those players to have specific interactions that are the result of their decisions and their choices. And then that brings me to Dream. So I don't know why Dream is so in the background, because it is just the way Revenant seems to be specifically designed as a special encounter. Dream seems to be very specifically designed to be a episode complication, right? So you've offended some cosmic power out there. They jump into your dreams, give you a nightmare, and you don't benefit from a long rest. And so you're like, wow, that sucks. Okay, I guess at some point I'm going to have to go figure out what to do about that, because I can't. You get a saving throw, so maybe you get a long rest every other day or something. But yeah, it's like very specifically designed to be just like a quick hitting complication that can do the exact thing that we're looking for here. Right? You as the DM, you can flavor the dream to reflect the nightmare, to reflect the offense that has been committed, right? Yeah, so that's just great. So I Dream is really one of my favorite complications for 5th edition in that respect. Then I'm just going to close, right? So within the complications, right? So we now have a situation where the PCs understand that they have offended someone, and they are sufficiently motivated to correct that, right? To stop these series of retributions that are coming their way. That can be, if you are so inclined, a good use of downtime, right? The PCs, if they have sufficient downtime, like, okay, we're going to go appease. Yeah, we know that they're not a nice god. It's Sekala, but we did desecrate her temple, and we're going to do the right thing and get back to even terms with Sekala. And so that can just be something. Players say, okay, here's our strategy. The DM looks at it and says, well, okay, these are a set of complications. These are things you need to complete it, and away you go. And then downtime is resolved, and that's an excellent use of downtime, right? It develops the character. It is a good sink for the resources that you're wanting downtime to be used for. It develops the world, right? It's a good world building use of all the things that you look for in downtime. That's a really good use of downtime. You can say, okay, we're going to have a specific episode, right, dedicated to appeasing this offense in some way. And I've done that. Those in Dimgaard, that specific thing, that specific scenario where the PCs have done this, have needed to do an act of appeasement, like, or go address some problem that is causing them complications. That has led to many of the standalone adventures that we recently published a volume of them. We will eventually publish other volumes of them, and that can slow down your broader. Well, it 100% slows down your broader story, because you've now you're dedicated a full session to resolving the matter, and so that's going to push your campaign out one session. But that may not be a bad thing, right? You may like, oh, this session was going to be, or this campaign was going to be oddly timed for us. It was going to end like in September, and we really would prefer it to end in October or whatever. So pushing things, having a good session to inject there is not necessarily a bad thing. It's even a good opportunity to bring in a guest DM for it. It's like, you're presenting your big campaign. You're like, man, I'm going at this for a long time. And I've got this friend who wants to prepare a one-off adventure. So I'm going to give them the elements of the adventure, right? And let them prepare a one-off adventure for characters of my character's levels to resolve this issue, so that they no longer are having this and that's a really great mechanism too. It helps build your community of D&D players, MDMs, and you're able to share ideas, and so all good stuff. All right, so like I said, I'm a big fan of all the other streamers on the D&D topic. I'm not trying to stomp on their parade. These were things that I think add a lot to a game and to a campaign. If you agree, if you're like, yeah, that was interesting, that was useful, please hit the like button. And if you have elements of your own, like complications that you fairly use, like the Revenant or the Dream that I mentioned, like if you have specific things like that, it would be great if you added those in the comments. That would be information that probably many people would find useful, that they could drop into their game on an ad basis. So that would be great too. And then subscribers are always welcome. That way you get the notification whenever we drop a new one of these. If you catch me on social media, Twitter or Facebook or Discord, Reddit, wherever, it's always a thrill to me to engage in a discussion about D&D, Dimgaard in particular. So that would be great too. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in, and I hopefully will see you next time.